This video is sponsored by Fantasy Football Hub. Every stat used on FPL TV has been taken directly from the hub, and you too can get access to their extensive Opta stats simply by signing up. Their superb Opta tool allows you to filter by position, price, or a specific game week range to identify which players are performing best in the Premier League. To sign up, simply click the link in the description box below. You can also use the code FPLTV for a 10% discount on membership. Warning, this video contains team selection and captain choices which some viewers may find offensive. Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. With what feels like the longest and most drawn out game week in history finally behind us, let's quickly see how the squad performed over the last 2 weeks, and then look ahead to my potential team lineup for game week 27. The first week of fixtures started off very poorly, with my Sheffield United defensive double-up conceding against Bournemouth, courtesy of a goal from who else but Callum Wilson. There were no attacking returns from John Fleck in that game either, and Troy Deeney put in a poor display away to Brighton. Both Fleck and Deeney managed just one shot on target between them in game week 26, so not very promising stats there. However, defensively the Blades were once again fairly resolute, conceding only 2 shots on target despite Bournemouth scoring. It was the second week of fixtures where things really picked up for my side, especially in the game between Aston Villa and Spurs, with both of my players from that game delivering 19 points between them. It was yet another lively display from both Grealish and Son, who each had chances to further increase their point returns in that fixture. Jack Grealish does have a blank game week coming up in 28, along with a seemingly very difficult run of fixtures. However, his form at this time is making the thought of selling him very difficult. It's also been confirmed that Son Heung-min picked up a long-term injury in that game, and that's a headache I didn't want to have, as he's been a superb differential for me since buying him 3 game weeks ago. Elsewhere in game week 26, Liverpool went on to keep their 9th clean sheet in just 10 games, and it was nice to have Danny Ings in my starting 11 for the first time this season and finally experience a goal from him. The Southampton forward has a terrific run of games coming up, so hopefully he can continue ticking over. In Liverpool's game against Norwich, there was also a surprise blank from Mo Salah, by far the most popular captain choice of the game week. With me not captaining Mo Salah, this appeared to be a great chance to climb up the rankings, and as things stood before the Man City game, I'd actually risen into the top 1 million for the first time this season. All I needed now was a goal or 2 from my captain Sergio Aguero to really seal the deal, and having him as captain in game week 26 was a roller coaster of emotions, especially when that fixture at home to West Ham first got rescheduled. Ultimately, it wasn't to be for Aguero captainers, with him blanking in that fixture anyway. With the combination of Aguero blanking and Kevin De Bruyne being at his brilliant best, that was the worst scenario possible for my team. When I wildcarded 2 game weeks ago, I brought in Aguero specifically to captain him for this game against West Ham, and had he been benched in this one, I would have considered myself unlucky. But Aguero did play the full 90, so I can have no regrets or complaints over this move. It was a move that had the potential to be explosive and hugely rewarding, especially after Mo Salah did blank against Norwich. I still feel it was a risk worth taking, which simply didn't pay off on this occasion. So, before the Man City game, it looked as if I'd be securing another decent green arrow, but with De Bruyne's excellence and the Aguero blank, the game week ended on a small red arrow, down to 1.1 million. I finished on a score of 56, which was bang on the average. Let's move on to game week 27 now, and see how my team could line up for this upcoming weekend. Also, if you enjoy my team ramblings here on FPL TV, then be sure to support my channel by dropping a like on the video, and most importantly getting subscribed. You can also hit the notification bell so you never miss an FPL TV upload. With Son Heung-min now out injured for the long term, one of my 2 free transfers this week needs to be used to replace the South Korean, but the question is who to go for with many viable options available. One of the other Spurs midfielders, or United's Bruno Fernandes, both look like decent alternatives, but for me, I've narrowed it down to 3 players. Everton's Richarlison, for his and Everton's very good form of late, and also Harvey Barnes or Perez at Leicester, simply due to their very kind run of games after Man City this week. Granted, the Foxes aren't in the best form lately, but they do face Norwich and Aston Villa in back-to-back games following game week 27, which does look very promising from an attacking perspective. As for Richarlison, the Brazilian has ticked over very nicely this season, currently seeing him sit as the 4th highest scoring midfielder in FPL. The big put-off with Everton is of course their very bad run of fixtures, as they face Arsenal, United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Leicester and Spurs in 5 of the next 6 games. On paper, a dreadful run, but Everton have been scoring well since Ancelotti took over, so is this a case of ignoring fixtures and simply looking to form? It's also worth noting that Richarlison has scored against Leicester, Liverpool, Chelsea and Man City earlier this season, showing that he can turn up in the bigger games as well. For the second free transfer this week, I may use it to bring back Raul Jimenez ahead of his fixture at home to Norwich. It's important for you to note that Gameweek 31 clashes with the FA Cup 6th round, therefore resulting in a blank game week for any teams that reach the 6th round, along with any opponents they were set to play. Now, Wolves have been knocked out of the FA Cup, meaning that they are confirmed to play in blank Gameweek 31, a fixture at home to Bournemouth, and this is a handy bit of knowledge when bringing them in, especially if you don't have the free hit chip anymore. With no guarantees on Aguero starting away to Leicester, and with a blank game week 28 then to follow for Man City, I thought Aguero would be the easy transfer out this game week. However, there are now some suggestions that game week 29 could result in a double game week for Man City, making the decision to sell Aguero a bit more troublesome. Holding on to Aguero for now would mean I could simply upgrade Troy Deeney to Raul Jimenez instead, a decision I'm still weighing up. With the transfer of Son to Richarlison the one move I'm fairly certain to make, here's how the team could line up for game week 27. When I chose to use the wildcard 2 game weeks back, I had made a plan to use my bench boost fairly soon after, and this game week 27 was the target. On my bench this week, I've got McCarthy, my second keeper, at home to Villa, John Fleck at home to Brighton, Burnley's Charlie Taylor at home to Bournemouth, and also Lascelles away to Palace, and Palace don't exactly score many goals, so perhaps a 0-0 in that game isn't off the cards. The reason I'm keen to bench boost now is because I feel bench boosting soon after a wildcard allows you to build a decent bench without having to waste lots of free transfers and taking hits in the process. Of course, usually I'd hold on to the bench boost for one of the big double game weeks later into the season, and this, in my opinion, is a very good strategy if you still have your wildcard in hand. But for me, without the wildcard anymore, using it now in this single game week may be my best chance, rather than having to reconstruct it with free transfers later into the season. When those big double game weeks do come around, I can then simply focus all my budget into my starting 11 instead of worrying about a suitable 15-man squad. For the captaincy in 27, I do think Danny Ings is a very fair shout at home to Aston Villa. Interestingly, Aston Villa are the only team left in the league not to keep a single clean sheet away from home, and this is also a team that Ings banged 2 goals in against earlier this season. My small concern with Ings though is that he only has 1 double-digit haul this season, so despite the fantastic consistency, is he explosive enough for the armband? And that's why Mo Salah at home to a struggling West Ham seems like the safer bet. That's how my team could look for game week 27, but either Troy Deeney or Aguero may become Raul Jimenez before the deadline. If you'd like to see the final team lineup, as always I'll be posting it over on Twitter shortly before the game week deadline hits. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and get subscribed to FPL TV. Good luck to all of you watching for Game Week 27, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all very soon.